of their own accord to learn. As hope is key to eventually finding our recovery, and we hope today you will find that hope. Thank you.
I'm delighted to introduce our first guest, Hywel Davies. He is a passionate, insightful and influential man in the field, a founding member of Pembrokeshire Mind, Pembrokeshire Hearing Voices Group, as well as Hearing Voices Network Cymru. He not only supports the website of the Hearing Voices Network Cymru and INTERVOICE, but also all of the groups across Wales and their members. Please put your hands together for lovely Hywel Davies.
Welcome, croeso, bore da. Today is Wednesday, September the 14th, World Hearing Voices Day, and the purpose of today's gathering is essentially to raise awareness of voice hearing from a variety of perspectives and to celebrate voice hearing and the spirit of recovery. Inspired by an idea by Louise Pembroke, a voice hearer from England, the first Hearing Voices Day was held on September the 14th, 2006, and since then the day has been celebrated globally and righteously, and today we're in Newport in Gwent to celebrate World Hearing Voices Day. Diolch yn fawr iawn am dod heddiw. Thank you very much for being here today. Mae Cymru yn wlad fach, falch a pwysig, a fel genedl mae Cymru wedi diodde yn fawr iawn o broblemau iechyd meddwl yn ystod llawer iawn o blynyddoedd yn y 2 canrif diwetha. Wales is a small, proud and important country, and as a nation, Wales has suffered considerably from mental health problems for many years in the past 200 years. Now, mae Llanw wedi troi, but now the tide has turned. Nawr mae Cymru fel y mudiad clywed lleisiau yn ceisio creu realiti bendant a pwysig yn y byd creadigol ar y ffordd i adferiad. Now, Wales, like the Hearing Voices movement, is trying to create a positive reality that is significant and important in the creative world on the road to recovery. Wales has a proud and distinguished history, and it is significant that 5 of the first 6 presidents of the United States of America were of Welsh descent. Wales has been and is a nation of global consequence. Similarly, as writers, poets, dancers, actors, musicians, artists, believers, and actresses, voice hearers have made a significant similar contribution to human civilization for many thousands of years. However, voice hearing is not always a nice experience, and I would appreciate now if you could please be upstanding for 1 minute's silence out of respect for all those voice hearers for whom suicide or self-harm was or is a consequence of their voice hearing experience. Could we all be upstanding, please, out of respect for those people who have passed away? Voice hearing is, as you know, the hearing of a voice or voices inaudible to others. It is not always a nice condition. In fact, it can be a horrible condition, triggered by bereavement, physical illness, unemployment, divorce, torture, and or some other traumatic event. Voice hearing is experienced by 10 to 15% of the human population in their lifetime. 2.3% of people hear a voice at any one given moment in time. 66% of voice hearers find their voice or voices helpful or positive. Voice hearing can be positive, creative, and peaceful experience, and 53% of people labelled by psychiatry as schizophrenic in inverted commas hear a voice or voices inaudible to others. Voice hearing is a phenomenon of human existence. According to Julian James in his 1976 book, The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, voice hearing dates to 10,000 BC. Experts are uncertain as to when approximately voice hearing in the human population began. However, it exists, and often it is a question of coping with voice hearing. Voice hearing can be a positive and creative experience involving inspiration, wisdom, and humour. In early civilizations, voice hearers were often seen as individuals of a religious and/or spiritual significance. Consequently, voice hearers used to hold significant positions in early societies of the world. Temples, pyramids, monuments, murals, statues, and/or figurines in Egypt and, for example, in Central and South America were built in tribute to voice hearers' divine perceptions, in inverted commas. From Turkey to Peru, from Egypt to Mexico, from Cyprus to Central Asia, the leaders of early civilizations were, in inverted commas, hallucinatory god kings. In an age where the mind was considered to have two chambers, that is, in an age where the mind was said to be bicameral, voice hearers ruled the kingdoms of Egypt and of the Maya people and of the Inca people. The thesis of Julian James, the Princeton University academic, in his 1976 book, The Origin of Consciousness in the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, states that some of the fundamental, most characteristic and most commonly observed symptoms of florid schizophrenia are uniquely consistent with the bicameral mind. There is a joke that prayer involves talking to God, schizophrenia involves God talking back, and silence being a bourgeois aberration. I'm not suggesting that voice hearers should rule the world. What I am saying is that as poets, musicians, composers, dancers, artists, sculptors, actors, actresses, and/or comedians, voice hearers bring something to the table which is often of worth. And we can see today some of those articles of worth in the exhibition in the hallway of artistic work by voice hearers. People who hear a voice or voices are, I believe, saints, prophets, geniuses, shaman, and/or gurus, or have the potential of such. Voice hearers from the past and present include Moses, Joan of Arc, Teresa of Avila, Zoe Wanamaker, and Sir Anthony Hopkins. The Bible is full of voice hearers. In the 19th and 20th century, psychiatry pathologized unusual behavior and called that behavior abnormal. Voice hearing was no exception in this particular psychiatric process. Psychiatry has had an unusual and controversial history in terms of describing certain behavior as pathological. The nature and definition of mental illness according to the prevailing values of the day. In the Soviet Union of the 20th century, certain political dissidents were deemed by Soviet psychiatry to be mentally ill for wanting to emigrate from the Soviet Union. Similarly, homosexuals, lesbians, and bisexuals were once regarded by traditional Western psychiatry as being mentally ill in inverted commas. All voice hearing was seen by psychiatry in the Western world in the 20th century as a sign of lunacy. However, psychiatry in the Western world is now in a period of change in which mental health and creativity spirituality and recovery have a more significant role in contemporary mental health service provision. Not all voice hearing is a sign of madness and lunacy. Voice hearers bring something to the table which is often of value. September the 14th, World Hearing Voices Day, is essentially an opportunity to celebrate voice hearing in the 21st century and to reclaim the history of the world at its best. People as varied as prehistoric cave painters of 30,000 BC, Old Testament prophets, Buddha, Muhammad, William Blake the poet, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and John Nash Jr., the inventor of game theory and Nobel laureate, were or are all voice hearers. They all had something to contribute to society's better self. Voice hearing is a worldwide phenomenon, and personally I think that reincarnation, astrology and complementary therapies can help to realign the mentally ill in contemporary society. That is rightly or wrongly my contribution to the table. To hear a voice or voices does not necessarily mean that one is, in the words of Adolf Hitler, a useless eater. There are good reasons to celebrate voice hearing in the creative arts of the past 100,000 years. To hear a voice or voices does not necessarily mean that one is permanently or severely mentally ill. There is a more humane and sensitive means of dealing with voice hearing than the biochemical model of mental illness, and that better way is found in the Hearing Voices movement. There are currently 24 Hearing Voices networks in the world. There are in excess of 170 Hearing Voices groups in England, and there are approximately 11 Hearing Voices groups in Wales. Possibly raped culturally, economically, financially, geographically and linguistically, Wales or Cymru is a traumatised nation in the same way that voice hearers are a traumatised people. In about 1997, a leading Welsh politician stated that Wales is a nation with a fractured psyche, in inverted commas. Similarly, in the introduction to the Blood Axe book of modern Welsh poetry, Menna Elfyn and John Rowlands stated in 2003 that Wales is a schizophrenic, in inverted commas, nation. Cymru is a nation with a mental health problem. However, now Cymru, like the Hearing Voices movement, is in a period of establishing recovery and welfare, not only in Wales but throughout the world. Diolch yn fawr iawn i ni eto am bod yma heddi. Thank you very much for being here today. And thank you very much to Jess and Maria in particular for arranging today's events. Mwynhewch y diwrnod, fel enjoy the day, fel pobl sy'n clywed lleisiau, mae Cymru yn wlad fach, falch a arbennig. Like people who hear voices, Wales is a small, proud and special country. Ysgrifennodd y bardd Waldo Williams un diwrnod fydd mawr o mai bychau. The poet Waldo Williams wrote one day, the small people of the world will be big, a mae diwrnod nawr wedi cyrraedd, and now that day has arrived. Fel Cymru a fel pobl sy'n clywed lleisiau, rydym ni yn pobl mawr a pobl pwysig yn y byd creadigol ar y ffordd i adferiad. Like Wales and like people who hear voices, we are big or significant people who are important in the creative world on our road to recovery. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much.